So we can agree that Bo just didn't want to watch this movie, right?
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Okay. That's fucked up. There has to be like a price to pay, right? Like you can't just get away with this.
No, I'm thinking he gets suspended.
Yeah, you can't
without pay.
Can't do Guardians, can't do Winter Soldier. I think that's fair.
No, I think we cut Civil War out.
Oh, okay.
He can't be on Civil War.
That's fair.
I think Civil War is his favorite one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Should have watched The Dark World, you piece of shit.
How do I get to Greenwich?
Take this train, 3 stops.
Find the gap.
Sorry.
Welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, along here with Teddy, no Bo, because he didn't want to watch Thor: The Dark World, but we're here. We're going to review this movie. And
Yeah, just buzz right through this.
Yeah, this was one that I wasn't looking forward to, but I knew it was on the radar and dreading having to rewatch this one. But these revisiteds, they have to move along. We can't just skip them, so here it is.
So I know we were all dreading this from first. Well, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I honestly didn't. I had fun with it. Not in the sense of even making fun of it. I really didn't mind this movie too much.
Well,
I thought it was a lot worse than what I remembered it.
It's not like an awful movie.
Yeah.
It's not terrible where you can make fun of it and like you can with other bad superhero movies. It's just boring.
Yeah, it's got its points.
Bored.
It has its points where you can latch onto. Like it has its strong points. Yeah, I can. My favorite part of this movie was Loki. I think Loki made this movie.
I know he was the best part, and especially with the relationship with their mother, and we see how that affected him and what his viewpoint on his kind of upbringing and where he stands in this world. But there's not enough of that.
There was some solid acting though too with him and Odin. Anthony Hopkins is phenomenal.
I mean, yeah, Anthony Hopkins. He can, even when he phones it in, he's still pretty
yeah.
good. And good for him for getting that Marvel money. But there's not enough of the parts that I liked for it to save this movie because most of it's boring. A lot of that has to do with Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and we've seen how great he can be with his character with Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame.
Seeing how he performs, like how we know he can perform, I want to go on the writing. I don't think this was him. I didn't like where they went with Thor. I do like the fact that they strayed away from Thor 1, where he wasn't like he had to learn a lesson, so we didn't see much of Thor itself.
I don't know, because there's nothing like, even like the action sequences and when Thor is being Thor, nothing really stood out to me. Nothing was like, oh my god, that's cool or that's awesome. It was just like, yeah, I get it. It's
swings his hammer a lot and then hits him in the head.
I just wasn't interested in anything, and Malekith is probably
boring.
Holy
shit.
The worst villains like ever. There's a nothing character. Absolutely nothing to that character.
He's the most cliche villain of all time.
Just bad guy that wants to do bad shit.
Yeah, there's no layers on him.
Nothing to that character at all.
He just wakes up and just smells the ether, and he's going to take it. That's
yeah.
really it.
And I don't know, maybe there's something deeper to that character, but I just couldn't pay attention to any part of the movie he was in.
What pushed this movie over the edge for bad for me was the relationship with Jane Foster and Thor. This movie it was a rom-com, man. It was nothing like we know Marvel to be. And I think that's where this movie excelled in the first one, was their relationship. It was so much better in the first Thor. Yeah,
well, the Jane Foster character, obviously, now that we know that she's going to return for Love and Thunder as Thor, like they did in the comics, I think that was something that, if you're Natalie Portman, was like, yeah, that's the only reason why I'm coming back, because,
absolutely,
again, the Jane Foster character in this movie is just nothing character. Natalie Portman is such a great actress, and it's just that's the thing. They have so many great, and I'm not saying Chris Hemsworth is a bad actor. Like I said, we've seen him do a great job with this character, but the focus is on him, and it's like, well, Tom Hiddleston is better. The Loki character is better at this point than Thor. And you have Natalie Portman kind of just pushed off to the side. And even though she does get a lot of play in this movie, there's nothing there that I kind of latch onto with her performance or the character of Jane Foster.
If there's one thing we can take away from this movie, positive, is
Stellan Skarsgård in his underwear?
Yeah. Yeah. If Loki doesn't get this movie, we don't get the Loki that we have right now. Because the character arc was so phenomenal with Loki. It's almost like they knew what they have. Well, they know what they have now with Loki with this movie.
Well, he's the strongest part, and basically up until this point of every movie he's in.
100%.
Avengers, I mean, you can
as
argue,
much Loki as we can.
Yeah, and again, he's the most interesting part. His struggle, what goes on in his mind, how he felt slighted, and obviously the knowledge that he was adopted and kind of how that fucked with him and his place in Asgard and in his life. So yeah, I think the scene when Thor goes to visit him and kind of has that
charade up, like his
that
hologram, that
he's fine, but
yeah.
he's really going through
Great
it.
scene.
And you know how he helps Thor and he has that quote unquote honorable death. And we know at the end of the movie that he's not really dead, but
what, you know, one thing I didn't like either when they first brought him back or to come help. It's like, yeah, let's get the guy that destroyed New York City back on the team. Let's go. You can't figure anything out. You gotta go back for Loki, which I'm happy they did, but it's just funny to think of. They go back to Loki for help.
Yeah, and he's just such a charismatic character when they're walking and he's turning into the different character. When he turns into a Cap, like that's just.
Hey, want to have a rousing discussion about truth, honor, patriotism? God bless them.
That was hilarious.
That's just funny. That's just classic Loki. But like I said, it's just not enough of that to carry this movie. And
there was a lot of humor in this one too. there was almost.
It wasn't funny though.
There was like no dramatic scene there that didn't have a comedic punch to the end.
I think the part I did laugh at was when he goes to the subway.
Well, yeah,
like,
how many stops?
How do I get to Greenwich? But other than that, I mean, you have Kat Dennings is the Darcy character.
I was just going to ask you about her. She was aggravating me. She had a lot of comedic relief situations where there was no comedy and no relief that she was in.
Yeah, that was very much like, you know, at the times, like, oh, people like Two Broke Girls, so let's put Kat Dennings in it. Whatever happened to Two Broke Girls? They ever get some money?
Did they make it? I don't know. Did they make it? I never watched the show. Have you watched it?
I don't know. I wonder if they're still broke. Maybe they got a payday.
We'll get stats to put up something about what they're doing. Did you enjoy the scenery and like the scenes of this movie? Because the emphasis on Asgard, I think, looked phenomenal. And that's one thing I didn't like about Thor 1 is that they were on Earth pretty much the entire movie. And they could have done more with it.
No, yeah, Asgard always looks pretty cool. And
like the high fantasy looked amazing.
Asgard confuses me, though. Like, are they in the past or in the future?
Yeah, yo, exactly. Yo, that's so funny you said that. I was going to text you guys and say this guy's really still bathing with a towel. They have all this technology and they can't get a shower going.
Well, it's like they don't have, like, they still use spheres and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like clearly they can make guns and lasers, but yeah, Asgard it's a very high fantasy place and all the things that go on there, and Thor and his crew who kind of disappear in the next one, like Lady Sif and the rest of the gang. They're fun, I guess. But
yeah, they're good. Solid crew though.
Yeah,
Do treason with them.
It's a cool crew.
That's a stand-up crew.
If you got to do treason, you got to pick a cool crew.
Yeah. There you go. Idris Elba. He's a standout. He was phenomenal in this movie too. He always is.
Yeah, but he's barely in any of these movies.
Yeah, but the scene he's in, he always commands it. He's the man.
Yeah, he's definitely an opposing screen presence, but it's just too few and far between. And
is it? I texted Bo and I was like, "Is it possible to like everything in this movie except for Thor when he comes on screen?" It was almost like I got upset when Thor came on screen. Like that one scene when they're after Jane Foster, they find the whole gravitational thing, and then they come out and it's downpouring, and then there's just Thor in the background staring at them.
Yeah, I mean Jane Foster too. I mean, how do you move on from Thor? That's got to be a tough sell. I feel bad for the guy she went to dinner with. Seemed like a pleasant guy.
Guy's
but
the man. You kidding me?
When you're with Thor.
Poor bastard, dude.
I mean, it's been like 2 years and she's still hung up on him.
Would you be hung up? I'd be hung up if Gal Gadot came in, saved me, and promised that she'd be back. And she never showed up.
Yeah, I mean, Jane, come on. I mean, 2 years, not even like a text. You got to move on. But
he's dealing with New York, guy. He even that actually was a funny response. I had to deal with a bunch of realms collapsing.
Yeah, but you're Thor. You can't just shoot over and say what's up.
I guess you can just stop by. The phone works both ways.
Can't hit you up through the Bifrost.
That was actually a cool scene too. Let's do that again.
It's like even with some of the lesser Marvel movies that I don't like, let's say Iron Man 2, for instance, it's still cool. It's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and there's some really cool action sequences, and it's fun and entertaining at times, even though I don't necessarily...
He brings that character to life, though. That's the thing with Robert Downey Jr. He brings Iron Man to life and makes him relatable. Thor
is just kind of a bore. It's a fucking bar right there. But yeah, it doesn't have that.
It seems like they're trying
to... That's Loki, right? You know, Iron Man 2 is bad, but you have Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. And that's what makes it watchable.
Right.
Thor, that character doesn't have that ability. That relies on Loki, and Loki's a supporting character.
If Loki was in this movie more, this movie could have been a lot better.
It should have just been a Loki movie.
I mean, we're getting a TV show, right?
Yeah, that's true. Which it is interesting now, thinking back on Ragnarok when I first saw that movie and just how I was like, oh, I like this character now.
Yeah.
It's just such a kind of almost jarring transition to what he was in this movie until what
kidding
we
me?
know him as now.
It's a 180.
And they
He's
kind of,
nothing like he is right now.
yeah, and a lot
Yeah,
of that
no,
has to
listen-
do with Hemsworth's performances, and it is kind of one of those performances that can carry a movie now. And they just kind of missed the mark when it came to developing this character in the early stages of Marvel.
Well, like I said earlier, I think it was just overkill because in the first one, it was almost like they're trying to make Thor relatable. And
No
if
one
you think
can
about
ever
it, you
relate to
can't,
Thor.
Exactly. You can't make Thor relatable.
He's more
so-
relatable in the new movies. You kidding me? Fucking Endgame Thor? It's me in a mirror right there.
But Thor isn't having a relationship with a mortal though. That's what bothers me. It's like, why even try doing that? Just I can't gravitate to that. Just like it's so far fetched to me that I just can't believe it at all.
What, that you can fall in love with Natalie Portman?
Well, no.
Well, then Natalie Portman will fall in love with you.
Yeah. That, well, just the fact that he can have this relationship with a mortal.
Yeah, and also like the culmination of everything. Like, if you could pull off like a kind of sick showdown at the end, then you can it can turn this movie into just boring nothing. It's like, oh, but they didn't.
Exactly. A lot of these Marvel movies.
I don't even know how what happened at the end. He threw like the technology at him.
Yeah, and teleported him because those prongs they made that like the gravity portal that sent it to that shadow realm, wherever it was, the shadow world.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Sick.
But a lot of these Marvel movies, especially in Phase 1, relied on that third act to really ramp this movie up and make it from being, like you said, a bore to like, oh wow, I'm glad I stuck around, and that third act was intense.
Mm-hmm.
This third act wasn't. They were just flying and going to different portals. There was no choreography fighting. It was all CGI.
Yeah, and the Dark Elves too, running around the city.
It was like I was watching Power Rangers.
It was so fucking
It was so
stupid.
bad. You know, there was more layers to that guy that the Malekith made with that power than to the actual villain himself, like the big juiced up roided guy who Loki kills. I felt more connected to him than to the main villain.
Another great character is Renee Russo as the mother, and she dies pretty early on.
She was slicing and dicing though.
I know, she was killing it.
I didn't know she could fight.
She's
like that.
another
I forgot she fights.
she's another great character.
Yeah.
And just not enough because they decided to kill her, and it's just the way the movie went. It was fun though, thinking of Endgame during this. I'm like, all right, so what point is Rocket in future Thor? When did they intervene here?
Yep.
So that's fun, and that kind of adds like a different layer to this movie, I guess. So that entertained me for about like 5 minutes.
Dude, could you imagine if like they had this whole grand scheme and like no one noticed until like after Endgame? Now, if you go back and watch Thor 2, you can like maybe see them in the background. Could you imagine if they had that kind of foresight? That would have been fucking insane.
No, I don't think they had no idea.
No, I know.
But that was fun, I guess. Like in my own mind for 5 minutes to think about that. And the ether is what we know as a reality stone now.
Yep. This movie,
I don't want to get what the ether does, or
just turns everything into darkness. Turns it's like a venom. It's like it takes whatever host it is into bad, I guess.
yeah. But how's that like Thanos used the reality stone in I guess it's like a different form. I don't know.
Thanos had the gauntlet though. The way I'm thinking of this movie now is kind of how I feel about WandaVision. WandaVision, I think, is sneakily gonna set up everything that's happening in Phase 4 in like a it's not mediocre because I do enjoy WandaVision, but I think WandaVision has a bigger role to play in Phase 4. If we don't get Thor 2, Loki isn't set up, and it introduces the Reality Stone into this universe. So it's a good platform. Like I think we need Thor 2.
I don't think so. You could do it. You could have done this in many different ways. You could have made it a better movie, but
I guess, but that's the movie we got. I'm trying to grasp on to Thor 2, all right? Man, I don't want to hate it. I don't want to hate it because it's Marvel, but
I don't hate
it was a stinker.
There's nothing that makes me like angry and like,
yeah,
I can't.
I agree.
Malekith maybe. It's just a nothing movie.
It's a 2-hour movie.
It's a bridge to like. It's like a checkpoint.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now we get Guardians and Winter Soldier. So it's like
they do go on a run after this.
They do. And they tease Guardians in the post-credit sequence, which I don't understand at all.
Yeah.
They're like,
why bring it to the Collector? I don't. Who is that?
It's like, oh, well, it's a bad idea to keep the Tesseract and the Ether in the same area.
Yeah, so let's keep it with a junkie and fucking.
Yeah, let's give it to the Collector, this guy that we really don't know about and is hella sketchy. That's safe.
If it's with the Collector, then it's not safe. Only an idiot would give that man a stone. Or a genius.
How do you...
It's like they're walking out and he's like, oh, only 5 to go. So what was that? Oh, nothing.
No. 5 more minutes. That's all I was saying.
So just literally has fucking people in cages. Like, here is one of the most powerful.
Yeah, that was creepy. That was good. It was eerie.
Yeah, no.
I want to know who he is. I still don't know who he is, even after all these Marvel movies. Like, I don't get what he is. He's like a baseball card collector or something.
Yeah, I
You know,
guess.
trophies.
Okay, that about wraps it up. Like I said, look forward to our other revisiteds coming soon. And thank you for watching this one, even if you didn't want to. I mean, that's support. If you clicked and watched this one,
Yeah, I fuck with you.
yeah.
I wonder if we would have skipped this if anyone would have noticed.
Well, would you look at that? It's finally over. Hey guys, Bo Oliver here for one final send-off. Now, before I beg you guys to like and share this video, I'd like to thank our very special Patreon pledgers. We are very proud of the community we've been able to build here at NerdSoup, and it would not have been possible without our Patreon supporters. You guys are the true MVPs of this channel. Everything I've said, you keep the fridge full, you keep the lights on. There aren't enough words to thank you guys, but we'll do it anyway. Thank you. And we have a few videos coming up that have been suggested to us by Patreon pledgers. My Hero Academia, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Full Metal Alchemist will be reviewed by Marissa, and yours truly, and Castlevania, which will be reviewed by Marissa and Aaron. And if you'd like to consider donating to our Patreon page, you can visit patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out some of the rewards we offer to our listeners. And really, we'd like to thank everyone who takes the time out of their day to watch our videos. Patreon pledger or not, your support is what keeps us motivated to keep giving the world our opinions on movies and TV shows and video games and pop culture, even though no one asked for it. We're still here, we're still yapping, and we hope you continue to join us. I'm Bo Oliver, and I support this message.